Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was late November when Daniel, a 29-year-old night stalker at Millstone Market, began to notice something was wrong. The grocery store had been in the neighborhood for over 40 years, a staple of the community, but business had declined in recent months. Rumors had started spreading, stories of odd figures seen in the aisles, phantom voices over the intercom, and a smell like spoiled meat in the dairy section that no cleaning product could remove. Daniel wasn't one to believe in ghost stories. He took the overnight shift because he liked the quiet. No customers, no distractions, just him, some quiet music in his headphones, and pallets of inventory to shelve. But by the third week of his new schedule, the quiet began to feel different. Not peaceful, but heavy, like the store was holding its breath. It began subtly. Items he had shelved would disappear and reappear in the wrong aisles. A pallet jack moved 6 feet overnight when no one had touched it. One night as he passed the frozen food section, he thought he saw a shape in the glass of the freezer door. Not a reflection, but something standing inside, just behind the frost-covered bags of peas. When he opened the door, nothing was there. He laughed it off, but the chill he felt wasn't from the open freezer. Then came the sounds. It started as faint whispers, barely audible over the hum of the fluorescents, but they grew louder as the week went on. At first he thought it was the old PA system glitching, but the voices didn't sound like static. They were wet, raspy, close. At 2:13 a.m. exactly every night, the intercom would click on by itself, and someone, or something, would whisper Daniel's name. He told his manager, but she brushed it off. "This building's ancient, wires cross, things happen, you're tired." She offered to switch him to a day shift, but he declined. He didn't want to seem weak. Besides, it was probably just stress. But the following Monday, things escalated. While restocking paper towels, Daniel heard a loud crash near the stockroom. When he went to investigate, he found shattered glass scattered across the floor. The security mirror from aisle 6 had fallen, or more accurately, had been ripped from the ceiling, its screws sheared as if by force. There were deep gouges in the tile beneath it, as though something with claws had dragged it across the floor. The camera footage showed nothing. Just Daniel staring at the mirrorless ceiling. No sound, no movement. That night, Daniel stayed late to do inventory. Around 3 a.m., the store went silent. Even the hum of the refrigeration unit stopped. His phone died inexplicably. Then the overhead lights flickered and went black. In the absolute darkness, he heard the sound of footsteps, not just one set, several, shuffling, dragging, as though barefoot. He froze. The sound wasn't coming from in front of him or behind him. It was all around. The emergency lights finally kicked on, bathing the aisles in dim red light. Daniel turned in slow circles. There was no one there, but the shelves around him were wrong. Cereal boxes were turned backward. Labels on cans were peeled off. Packages of meat were stacked in disturbing pyramids, oozing blood. And then he saw the figure. Standing at the end of aisle 9 was something tall, emaciated, with skin like plastic wrap pulled over raw muscle. Its head was cocked at an unnatural angle, and its mouth hung open far too wide. It didn't move. It just stood, breathing heavily, watching him. Daniel blinked, and it was gone. He bolted. As he ran for the front doors, every aisle he passed showed signs of someone else having been there. Gouges in the floor, handprints on the ceiling, packages torn apart, raw meat smeared across the linoleum in long, deliberate strokes. He made it outside just as the lights inside went completely black again. The police found him sitting on the curb, shaking, his arms cut and bleeding. He hadn't even realized he'd fallen. When they searched the footage from that night, every camera showed nothing but static for 22 minutes. No footage of Daniel. No evidence of the blood, the broken mirror, the shelves he'd found in chaos. The store shut down 2 weeks later. Daniel never went back. He moved states, changed careers, and stopped shopping in supermarkets altogether. But sometimes when he's alone, he still hears it. At 2:13 a.m., his phone will ring once. No number, no message, just a single breath, and his name whispered through the speaker, like it never left, like it's still waiting.
Story number 2.
There was a small-town supermarket that everyone trusted. It was the only place within miles to get groceries, and the people who worked there were friendly, smiling as they helped customers down the aisles. But beneath the fluorescent lights and stocked shelves, something sinister lurked. It started with strange noises late at night. The store manager, Lisa, would come in early the next day to find items misplaced or oddly arranged. Boxes of canned goods stacked in impossible formations, expired food returned to shelves, but no sign of who had done it. Cameras installed for security caught only flickering static or grainy shadows moving just beyond their range. One evening, an overnight stocker named Mark was working alone. He heard faint whispers echoing through the empty aisles, soft voices calling his name. Assuming it was his imagination, he ignored it and pushed the cart further into the produce section. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered and died. Pitch black swallowed the store. In the dark, Mark's breathing quickened. The emergency exit alarm shrieked without cause. His phone's flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but that's when he saw it. Reflections in the glass doors of the refrigerated cases. Not his own. Faces. Pale, hollow-eyed faces pressed against the glass, mouths moving silently. When he turned, nothing was there. He ran toward the exit only to find the doors locked. His frantic banging triggered a flood of white noise from the loudspeakers, distorted, angry voices screaming in a language he couldn't understand. Mark dropped to his knees, heart pounding, eyes darting as shadows shifted unnaturally around the aisles. The next morning, Lisa found the store's doors wide open, lights back on, but no sign of Mark. His cart was abandoned in the middle of aisle 7, groceries scattered, and his phone smashed on the floor. No footage showed him leaving or anyone else entering after closing. Just a chilling recording on the security system, Mark's terrified whisper, repeating, "They won't let me leave." Weeks passed, and employees started quitting. Customers reported hearing soft cries and footsteps in empty aisles during their shopping trips. One night, a night janitor found a message scrawled in red on the bathroom mirror. "We feed on fear." The supermarket remained open, but a dark reputation grew. Locals avoided shopping after dusk, and whispers spread about a hidden presence trapping souls inside the store, feeding off the panic and helplessness of those caught in its grasp. No one knows what happened to Mark or the others who disappeared, but sometimes, late at night, you can still hear faint footsteps and whispers drifting from the aisles of that supermarket, waiting, watching, and hungry.
Story number 3.
It started as a regular night shift at the supermarket on the edge of town, the kind of place people only visited out of necessity, late when the city had already quieted down. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, flickering intermittently like the heartbeat of a dying machine. Emma, the night clerk, was used to the eerie silence broken only by the occasional beep of the scanner or the distant rumble of a delivery truck. Tonight, though, something felt off. She noticed it when the automatic doors refused to open for a few seconds after a customer approached. The man was tall, dressed in a dark hoodie pulled low over his face, gloves covering his hands despite the warmth inside. His eyes flicked nervously around, never settling on Emma or the aisles. She smiled politely and asked if he needed help, but he just nodded and disappeared into the dimly lit aisles. Minutes passed. Emma heard the faint rustling of plastic bags, the shuffle of feet on linoleum, but no carts or baskets. The man never came near the register. When she checked the security monitors, the aisle where he'd vanished was empty, but the footage was glitchy, grainy, like static was eating the image. She rubbed her eyes and looked again, but it was gone. Then the lights in that aisle flickered out. Emma's skin prickled. She wasn't sure if it was the faulty wiring or something else. Her radio crackled softly in the background, a voice distorted and barely audible whispering, "Don't trust the lights." She frowned and tapped the button to call the security guard, but the radio went dead. The store suddenly felt claustrophobic, like the walls were inching closer, swallowing the light. Emma heard soft footsteps behind her and turned sharply, but no one was there. She moved cautiously toward the exit to check the cameras, but the doors refused to budge. They were locked tight. Then she heard it, a low, guttural breathing echoing through the aisles, coming closer, closer. Emma's breath caught in her throat as the lights flickered violently, plunging her into darkness before the emergency lights buzzed on with a sickly yellow hue. From the shadows, the man emerged, but his face was wrong. Stretched and twisted, his eyes hollow and black as coal. He didn't speak, but pointed a trembling finger at Emma. The air thickened with the scent of something rotten, something decayed. Emma stumbled back, heart hammering, but the man was already gone, vanished like a ghost. The intercom crackled to life. A voice, cold and unfamiliar, whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Emma's hands shook as she fumbled with her phone to call for help, but there was no signal. Desperation clawed at her chest as she realized the exit doors were still locked. She was trapped inside with something that shouldn't exist. Suddenly, all the freezers slammed open simultaneously, their doors banging against the tiled floor. A cold, unnatural wind swept through the aisles, and the man's distorted face appeared behind the frosted glass, his eyes pleading, or maybe warning. Emma ran blindly through the maze of shelves, hearing whispers rising all around her, the store itself seeming alive with voices from another realm. She burst through the stockroom door and found the emergency stairwell. As she descended, the lights above exploded in a shower of sparks. Finally outside, Emma collapsed on the pavement, gasping for air. The store loomed behind her, quiet again as if nothing had happened. When the morning staff arrived, the doors opened without hesitation, and the surveillance footage showed only a normal night. No glitches, no man in the hoodie, no strange happenings. But Emma never returned to that supermarket again. And sometimes, late at night, she swore she could still hear the soft breath of someone watching from the darkened aisles, waiting for the lights to go out again.